All right, good morning everybody and welcome to the HAWS Integrated webinar. I am Casey Hayes and I will be your host for the next hour. Today's webinar is all you need to know about the ANSI Z358.1 standard, which is specific around the performance and installation of safety showers and eye wash equipment. One of the greatest aspects of these webinars is the ability for you to post questions throughout the next hour. We will do everything we can to get through those at the end. For those that do not get answered, we will do that offline and send those back out to you within a day or two of the webinar in email. So again, go to the section on your screen for the questions log. Anything you want to ask, again, we'll try to get through that as fast as possible, and if not, we'll do that afterwards via email. This webinar will be recorded. It is also available to you on demand. You'll again get that email within 24 hours. So great opportunity to go back if there's anything you missed. Please forward the link off to your colleagues to share as well. And throughout the webinar, we will have a few poll questions thrown your way. We appreciate you taking the time to answer those to help us improve on our webinar. So again, I am Casey Hayes. I am the Director of HAWS Integrated with HAWS Corporation. HAWS Integrated is the systems side of HAWS, specific around tepid water. And also with me today is Samantha Hoke, Safety Specialist. She will be doing the poll questions and administering the questions at the end. So today's topic is specific around the ANSI ISEA Z358.1 standard. We will go through some of the 2014 highlights, some of the significant requirements that are often troublesome for folks like yourself as to how to comply. We'll go through tepid water and why that is important, and then we'll go through some best practices for emergency equipment, and this is based off of some of the sites that we've been to show how some other folks like yourself do some best practices around safety shower eye wash installation and performance. And then we'll go into how HAWS Integrated can help, and then again at the end the best part, which is the Q&A session. So with all of my presentations, I always start with why, and today is why is it important to comply with the ANSI standard. One of the things we have to realize, and you probably do, that the safety shower and eye wash is your first line of defense after the accident, and having a properly installed and working safety shower will help prevent injury and fatalities beyond what has happened with the chemical spill. It will also reduce that general workplace risk, having that properly flowing and operating safety shower and eye wash. And with all of that, the more we could have lost time is the less money that is spent out into the hospital. So again, first line of defense, first line of first response, first line of first aid, however you want to look at it, very important to ensure your safety showers and eye washes are working properly. We have seen over the last year OSHA stepping up its enforcement, especially with employers who have had a history of serious or repeated violations. So almost every webinar we do, we get questions around OSHA and ANSI and how they're interacted. But we'll show you here in the next slide or two how OSHA is starting to look at safety showers and some of the fines associated with them. There has been a change within OSHA in regards to how they do the fines. We're starting to see, based on some new regulation or laws about the fine increase, and this went into effect August 1st, 2016. So an example, now you could have a fine up to $126,000. That used to be $70,000. So again, there has been an increase with OSHA regulations where the fines have been increased, and we're seeing some significant increases around safety showers and eye washes. Now the one impact of OSHA that we all realize that there's probably more facilities than OSHA can handle. As shown here, the agency audited over 39,000 organizations. Probably should be a lot higher, but this is what it is. And 17,000 of those were what we would call unexpected safety audits. So there was somebody tipped them off so that they came in and did a safety audit. So a pretty high percentage of those, again, are surprise visits. Now some examples of some fines, and these are fairly recent, and these are all public information you get off of the OSHA website. But we have a marine terminal operator who had a repeat violation where eye washes were not provided when transporting ethanol from rail cars to tanker trucks. So here specifically an eye wash was designated as part of the fine, and here the penalty was $108,000. Now what we don't know is if the entire $108,000 was around eye washes, but what's interesting is that they specifically say eye washes when OSHA just says you need to supply suitable facilities. So a little bit of correlation there between OSHA and ANSI that they are specifically calling out an eye wash. Here we have a food manufacturer had a serious violation. Here they were very vague. They said suitable facilities for drenching were not provided when working with sodium hyperchlorite or bleach and caustic chemicals. This penalty was just under $9,800. So we're believing that this is very specific around the lack of equipment. And again, they were vague, using suitable facilities, but that is the language in OSHA. Then we have a metal finishing facility, another repeat violation. We have a non-functioning eye wash shower station for the folks who were exposed to chromic acid, nitric acid, and sulfuric acid, and that fine $10,780. So what we don't know if how many showers or eye washes were there, but I could tell you a properly functioning safety shower inside of a plant would probably be a lot less than that $10,000 fine. But again, very specific about the type of equipment coming from OSHA. This is new. We're starting to see this again within the last year. So let's get into the standard. The designation or the naming is all over the place. Most people will call it the ANSI standard. In reality, it's the ANSI ISEA Z358.1 standard. So obviously ANSI is the American National Standards Institute, and ISEA is the International Safety Equipment Association. And here ISEA does develop the standard. It defines the emergency eye wash and shower design, the location, temperature requirements, and proper functionality. It has been around a while, first published in 1981. What's interesting about that is manufacturers have been building safety showers for a lot longer than that. Our particular Haas got into this in the late 40s, early 50s. So for 30 some odd years, there was no standard around how a safety shower was to operate. But again, that all changed in 1981. We've had several revisions all the way from 1990 to the most recent 2014. A lot of people still believe that the 2009 is the most recent. Again, it is the 2014, but some of the revisions that were in the 2009 version was the temperature range for water delivery. We did change the standard from saying moderately warm to lukewarm to 60 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So we took it out of the appendix and put it in the body of the standard. We strengthened the testing and requirements of simultaneous use. We'll talk about that here in a little bit later, but simultaneous use means when you have an eye face wash or an eye wash with a combination shower, both have to work at the same time. The eye wash or eye face wash can't start when you turn the shower on. And then we did enhance the eye wash testing requirements, again, in the 2009 revision. The most recent revision, again, is the 2014. It went into effect January of 2015. Again, it is still about the design, the manufacturing, and installation of emergency showers. So it's kind of a strange standard in that myself as a manufacturer would utilize it to determine how the shower is to perform, flow rates, flow patterns, heights, dimensional aspects. It is a standard that you would use from an installation perspective as to where to install it, 10 seconds from the hazard, and then it also is good information about the maintenance of the equipment. So a lot of people utilize this standard that instead of just the manufacturer, it's also good for you guys. And then we did talk about the installation location, and we did make some adjustments to some of the measurements. So with this, we're going to turn this over to Samantha for the first poll question.
Thank you, Casey. If all of you could take a moment to answer the question on the screen, we'd like to know what best describes your role in choosing showers and eye face washes. Are you the decider, or do you make any recommendations on product? Do you install or maintain the product? Do you place the order? Do you specify products in the plans? Or do you not have a role?
Great. We appreciate you putting that information in, and again, those do help us with enhancing our webinars in the future. So let's get into the significant requirements of the standard. There are a lot of aspects to the standard, but we're going to get into some of the more significant, some of the more harder ones that for you to comply with as the installer and user. So some of the more simple ones, and these kind of fall on the manufacturer. So the emergency eye washes or the eye face washes and showers and combination units must be identified with highly visible signage. So as you see on this rail car loading area, you've got arrows pointing to the front of the door. You've got the signage that depicts it's a combination shower eye wash. So we need to ensure that these signs are available. We got to realize that when you run to these showers, you might have chemicals in your eyes, and it could be hard to see where you're at. And you may not believe it, but those signs do stick out and do allow the individual to get to that equipment. The valving must go from off to on in 1 second or less. Again, that's on the manufacturer. And there is a misconception in the industry that there has to be one motion activation. The standard is very clear that it must go from off to on in 1 second or less. So again, that's on us with the ball valves or whatever type of valving we're using for actuation of water. Just got to go from no flow to flow in 1 second or less. And then we must deliver flushing fluid for a full 15 minutes. Significant amount of water. We'll get into the flow rates here for a little bit. The time period of 15 minutes, for the most part, that falls on the installer because these are connected typically to a city water supply. However, if you're looking for a tepid water system, this would fall on the manufacturer to ensure that whatever system they've developed does give you that full 15 minutes of tepid water. One of the more harder aspects of the standard, especially from the manufacturer's perspective, is around the location of the equipment. So it must be accessible within 10 seconds. Why is that hard for the manufacturer? Well, we don't know where your potential accidents are at. So if we're given a plant layout, we can't determine where that accident's at. So this is really on yourself as the installers to get with your safety departments, your health and safety groups, to identify where the potential accident's at and ensure that that shower is in the quickest location, again, not farther than 10 seconds. At one point in previous revisions, we had distance and time. We have taken that out because not everybody can go the same distance in the same time, and we just left it at the 10-second rule. One aspect that's almost always missed is the shower must be located on the same level as the hazard. So in this picture, as you can see, you've got a booth on the ground level. It's supplying water to a booth, again, up on the rail loading. We often see that where the workers are at the top of those rail loading areas, the showers are on the ground floor. That is against the requirements of the standard. And again, just thinking about real-world application, you have somebody with chemicals on their body or in their eyes that could be in a state of panic, and having to expect them to go downstairs or upstairs to get to the shower within 10 seconds is just not feasible. So very clearly that the shower must be located on the same level as the hazard and be free of obstructions. Now this is an interesting picture because the angle that it is taken, it looks like there could be an obstruction. So this would be something we would have issues with doing an audit. But again, we don't have a clear angle to see if that the piping or the structure in front of the doors truly is in the way, but that could be considered an obstruction. So very clearly, you want to get to that shower within 10 seconds. You don't want anything in between that's going to impact them. And then you want to make sure that that shower is on the same level. Don't want people to have to run up and down stairs in that moment of panic. Other aspects of the flow rate, the showers and eye washes combination units must provide a controlled flow of flushing fluid at a velocity low enough to be non-injurious to the user. This is really specific need when you're talking about eye washes and eye face washes. It's not comfortable to stick your eyes in a stream of water. It's almost impossible to stick your eyes in a stream of water that's under velocity or pressure. So you want to make sure when you're evaluating your equipment, Is it usable? Is it going to cause uncomfort when the individual puts their eyes in that water? Also the same thing when you're looking at the safety shower. It's a significant amount of water, and depending on how it's dispersed out of the head, it could be an uncomfortable flow on top of the head or the body. So just one of those things to evaluate. Is it something you think you could put your body into for the full 15 minutes? Is it something you think you could put your eyes into for the full 15 minutes? So make sure those are non-injurious. Now when it comes to the flow rates, we have three different flow rates within the standard that we'll go through. The minimum flow rate, and again the ANSI standard is a minimum performance standard, so the minimum flow rate of an eye wash is 0.4 gallons per minute. That is a very, very low flow. And the reason that the flow rate is so low is there are several types of eye washes available to you. You have gravity-fed shower or gravity-fed eye washes that hang on the wall that require gravity. So we don't want an extreme amount of water, so at 0.4 gallons a minute, multiply that 15 minutes, you can get around a 9-gallon tank. When you've got maybe a pressurized stainless steel tank, again, you don't want to be lugging a significant amount of water, so we have that very low flow rate of water for your eyes. But again, it's a minimum flow rate. You could have a plumbed eye wash that's around 1.5 gallons per minute. Now, I'll be honest with you, we do not see the requirement for eye washes anymore, especially around the plumbed devices. Just think about the potential accident, that what are the chances that chemical's only going to land in your eyes and not around your face. So again, best practices, and something we'll talk about later, is that eye face washes are now specified as the standard, and all of our plumbed equipment that does leave is in an eye face wash format. So good segue into eye face washes. We have jumped from 0.4 gallons a minute all the way up to 3 gallons per minute. So 3 gallons per minute is increased so that we ensure that we get a spray pattern on your face. The standard does not designate how much flow is for the eyes or how much is for the eye face wash. I believe this is an opportunity for improvement in the future. All we have is just the flow rate of 3 gallons per minute. And then when we get to the drench showers, again, the minimum flow rate is 20 gallons per minute. What's interesting about that is your home shower is about 1/10 of that flow rate. So we have a significant amount of water that's coming out of our shower heads. Again, it's a minimum. Sometimes we get requirements for 30 gallons per minute. I'm not sure where that's driven from, possibly from old standards, but we can perform the same drenching at 20 GPM as we can at 30 GPM with the enhanced spray patterns. But again, it's a significant amount of water. So when you're designing tepid water systems, you have to take that into account. When you're worried about water on the ground, you have to take that into account. So out of a shower over the 15-minute period is 30 or 300 gallons of water that has to be contained, sent to the drain, or whatever you need to do with it. So a lot of water. And then with the combination of the two, so you have the 20 GPM for the shower, 3 GPM for the eye face wash. So we're looking at 23 gallons per minute. We typically will size our systems around 25 just to give us a little bit of a safety factor to ensure we've got enough water for that 15-minute duration. Now when we look at the spray patterns, if you will, of an eye face wash, we do have the requirement to measure the location of the eye wash and eye face wash pattern, and that is done with a gauge, and you can see this gauge going into the stream now. The two oblong circles in between the 4 lines, that is based on average eye widths, and what we have to make sure is that water does go into those at a point less than 8 inches above the eye wash. So if you have an eye wash that's flowing 10 inches above the head and it meets this gauge, you do not comply with the standard as it's written today. Now as you can see in this video, this is an eye face wash. You have spray pattern on the outside for your face, and you have a designated spray pattern for your eyes in the middle. So very important to ensure that when you're specifying an eye face wash that you do have a dedicated flow specific for your eyes so you can ensure you're getting the proper flow and coverage to those eyes. So some other significant requirements with the all eye washes, all face washes, all combination must deliver tepid water, and tepid water is designated as 60 degrees on the cold side and 100 degrees on the hot side. And where those temperature came from, the low side is based on an old naval study that says if you were submerged in a body of water at 60 degrees, you would be able to avoid hypothermia. How that relates to a safety shower is a stretch, but that's all we have today. But one thing to consider on the cold side would be your environmental factors. So even a 60-degree shower outside in, say, 35-degree air and wind, it's going to be rather difficult to ensure 15-minute drench because we don't believe the individual is going to stay there. The upper end, 100 degrees, is based on data that suggests temperatures above 100 degrees will cause eye tissue damage. So that's where we're at today, again, between 60 and 100. About 95% of all systems that we develop are designed around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's kind of like the industry norm as to what people are looking for in a tepid water system would be 85. Now we have gone out to get a survey done, and what we have found is 75% of ophthalmologists say that having tepid water or tempered water is very important, and they're citing that it increases the chance that a victim can tolerate the full 15-minute flush required. So this is external data that has been given to us. So we get questions a lot about why tepid water, why do we need it? It's really, the big thing is we have to get that full 15-minute drench, and if that water's too cold, and again, it's 10 times the flow rate of your home shower, you're outside, you're in wind, you could be snow, so it's really, really important to ensure we got tepid water for that. But it's also important to know that we have to get the clothing off to get the water directly to the skin. If that water is too cold, chances are your body senses are just going to take over and prevent yourself from taking those clothes off. So the warmer the water is, the better the chance you're going to get those contaminated clothing off. Again, that full 15-minute drench helps encourage that. If the water's too hot, we have these situations here in North America. We do installations in the Middle East. We can get scalding temperatures in a safety shower just by sitting out in the sun. So if the water is too hot, we do increase scalding, and there is the potential for increased chemical reaction because of the way the skin and the pores open up. So tepid water is not just a cold weather issue, it's also a hot weather issue. And obviously in the too cold side, it does reduce the risk of severe hypothermia to those chemical exposure. So you got chemicals on you, you're outside again, and you could get hypothermia in that cold weather. So let's go through some of the changes in the 2014 revision. And in that, in section 4.1.5, the emergency showers shall be designed, manufactured, and installed in such a manner that once activated, they can be used without requiring the use of the operator's hands. So this was just enhancing the verbiage. So as you can see in this video, the individual is under the shower. He is also putting his face in the eye face wash, and he's able to do that once they're on without having to hold the valves on. Many, many years ago, we used to have self-closing or automatic closing ball valves with a spring on them, so they're spring-loaded, which meant you had to keep your hands on them or keep your the resistance on the pull rod down, otherwise they'd shut off. So we've changed that to allow you to get into that shower in the eye wash without using the hands. What's important is you can see when he puts his face in the water, he's opening his eyelids with his fingers. Very important to ensure the water is getting to all aspects of the eye tissue. In section 5.4.4, which is also the same as 6.4.4, so one's versus the eye wash, one is the eye face wash, must be arranged so that the flushing fluid flow pattern is not less than 33 inches and no greater than 53 inches. So we did change the verbiage because it was previously 45 inches. And why it's changed is it's now based on the height of the spray pattern of the eye wash or eye face wash as opposed to where the head was at. So very important change is because it's more important to know where the spray pattern is as opposed to where the head's at. So this is why the dimensions have fluctuated. So as you can see here in the pictogram, on the top side is again that gauge with the oblong circles in between the lines. That's where we have to ensure we are getting flow. So when you look at the unit on the left, again that's from 33 to 53, and again it's changed to the peak of the flow pattern. If you look at the picture on the right, here we have a flow pattern that's greater than 8 inches. Again, spray patterns from the head up, no more than 8 inches. But you wouldn't be able to use the or get the gauge to meet. And to get the gauge to meet is going to be in an area where water is under velocity and pressure, which could be rather difficult for the individual to use because of the pressure on the eye surfaces. So again, just a dimensional change around the pattern and location of where that pattern peaks. We also made a change in the appendix. We got a lot of questions over the years about the shower being on the same level as the hazard when the booths, if you're looking at putting showers inside booths, have a step up and they're often on a concrete pad. So we did change that at a single step up into an enclosure where the equipment can be accessed is not considered to be an obstruction. So we do have the ability now with booths and not worry about that step up. Now we're going to get into some of the recommended best practices. Again, this is based on how the standard is written, what we are seeing in the industry from some of the safest companies that we do work with. So when it comes to evaluating the equipment, functionality, and location, the standard does state that all units must be free of obstructions, but there are some other things we should consider. The equipment should be located in areas with adequate space for emergency responders. Very, very important. So you have somebody in the shower, you're going to need somebody possibly to help them stay in the shower, and if there's a tight area, this may not be conducive to 1 or 2 more first responders in that area. So this is well above and beyond the minimum required of the standard. Again, this is a best practice just to ensure you have enough space for your first responders. Also important to monitor and evaluate all accessible components of your safety units on a frequent and routine basis to manage any potential problems. The standard does talk about weekly testing, does talk about annual testing. We see some people test their showers every shift change, so multiple times a day. So just something to look at. Again, it's your first level of response, your first aid response. You want to make sure that those pieces of equipment are ready to go. One aspect not part of the ANSI Z358 is color coding. That is a whole nother standard. That is Z535. And here they go through the colors of equipment that you potentially have in your facility, and they designate certain colors for certain emergencies. So red, danger and stop. So emergency stop bars, a button on machinery. Also be considered for fire if you're in the chemical and refinery business. Yellow is for caution, tripping, falling, and striking hazards. Orange is a warning signal, parts of machinery equipment that may cut, crush, or otherwise injure. And then the color of choice for safety is green, and that is, again, the location of safety equipment. So when we go out and we evaluate equipment within your facilities, and when we go through your training in order for us to get into your facilities, we often see that color coding is a part of the training to get into your facilities. So it's very clear that if you have an emergency that requires a safety shower, go to the color green. So something to think about. Again, it's not part of Z358, part of Z535. Then when you're looking at what is the most suitable product, there are a lot of things to consider. We talked about this earlier. So it's important to assess the specific risks to determine the most suitable product. The industry or folks like yourself just kind of call an eye wash and an eye face wash the same thing, which is just an eye wash. They are, again, 2 different devices. So we believe that specifying an eye wash in a chemical plant is not the best solution. This is where you're going to need the eye face wash. again, it's highly unlikely that the caustic chemical will only splash in the victim's eyes. Got to consider the surrounding areas of the face, and this is why an eye face wash or a combination shower and eye face wash is the appropriate choice. Again, all of our plumbed combination showers and all of our plumbed eye face washes, again, are eye face wash, not eye washes. So if you're interested in more in this, there is a webinar done by Haas that's online on demand on YouTube on how to choose the proper emergency equipment. Might be something worthwhile looking into. When it comes to the tepid water, again, we have that temperature range of 60 degrees to 100 degrees. The average water temperature of your shower at home is around 105. And again, we're 10 times the flow rate. So the temperature of 60 degrees we believe is too cold. So even though you meet the standard, we do not believe your individuals will be able to stand under that water for the full 15 minutes. So we're again looking at that temperature of about 85 degrees as what's specified. And we're also seeing people go above and beyond, again, looking at the environmental factors of the surrounding area to see if an enclosure is required. So get the people out of the cold air where the wind chill effect could take place and put them into an enclosure where that safety shower is at in an environment that's around 85 degrees with an 85-degree water temperature. Then we've got the proper maintenance and testing. This is probably something overlooked when we go out. The safety showers are put in, they're forgotten about. There's been no maintenance on them. So there is the requirement for the weekly activation, and we believe this is clearly stated requirement in the ANSI standard. But while that quick activation to test the unit might seem sufficient, it's really not an accurate representation of functionality for the required 15-minute flush. So the way the standard is written today, again, it's clear. It's there to turn on, make sure water is available, and to flush out the contaminants. But what we're seeing other folks doing is to ensure that the spray patterns are what they want them to be. So the folks who go around and test the showers are trained to ensure that this eye wash is going to be usable, that the shower head is going to be usable. So again, they go around, they ensure that those pieces of equipment have the proper flushing fluid supply and flow. They are clearing that line of any sediment buildup on that dead leg, so that's the pipe off of your main distribution line to the shower, so water is not always moving in there. They're determining how long that is and how long to run it to get all the sediment out. And then they're trying to replicate a real-life scenario to ensure that the unit's ability to reliably perform. We do have on our website at haasintegrated.com under resources an ANSI checklist. So this gives you all facets of the standard as to what you should be looking for, and this could be used as part of your training modules to ensure that your folks who go out to inspect your showers are looking at all aspects of the standard. So with that, we will go to our second poll.
Thanks, Casey. On your screen, we're asking, how likely are you to purchase or retrofit your existing emergency showers and eye washes and/or eye face washes over the next 6 to 12 months? Very likely, moderately likely, slightly likely, not at all, or not applicable. Great, thank you all for answering. Back to you, Casey.
Great, thank you again. So now we're going to get into some more detailed information around the spray patterns or flow patterns of your eye face washes. In the last couple of years, we came out with a what we believe is a much improved spray pattern for the eyes and the eye face washes, and we call that the Axion heads. And we have sent that out for third-party evaluation, and doctors are recommending the Axion for eye wash, eye face wash victim comfort. So what we have done is we have changed the direction of flow for eye washes. It used to go from the outside in. So if you would look at it from your ears towards your eyes. we went out and talked to the medical industry about the proper way to flush eyes, and it was very clear very quickly that when you go to the clinic to get your eyes flushed, they do it from the inside out. And they were very clear with us, like, we never understood why you guys have done it backwards. This is the way the medical industry's done it. So we have changed the flow pattern, as you can see in the picture there, which we do believe has an injury reduction. The inverted water streams gently flush the contaminants away from the glands surrounding the eyes. So we now understand how the fluid system within your eyes works, and the change in the flow pattern has gotten the chemicals away from those glands. When you look at the eye wash, specifically in the eye face wash, there's very little in the ANSI standard about victim comfort. It just says 0.4 gallons a minute for an eye wash, 3 gallons a minute for the eye face wash. That does talk a little bit about the non-injurious flow. But what we've done is we put features in our heads to ensure we have laminar flow, which means it's not a disruptive, a very consistently flow of water up to your eyes. So this, again, provides no disruption between the water layers, so we have a consistent pressure and water lines at a predicted stream height. So where the eye wash flow peaks on our eye face wash, again, because we have a dedicated flow for your eyes, is where the gauge is going to meet. So we don't have any velocity going up into the eyes where it's going to meet the gauge. So it's a very, very soft flow of water, pushes those chemicals away. We also include in all of our equipment an inline strainer on the plumbed combination shower eye face washes. This does clean any debris that's in your water line that could get to the eye wash. We don't want any of that debris hitting the eye tissue when it's in the water. All of this is ANSI compliant. There's nothing in ANSI that says it has to go from the outside in. So we have just reinvented the eye wash to a better performance that's approved and agreed upon by the medical industry as the better way to do this. So all of the Axion MSR product does contribute, comply, and exceed all of those important aspects of ANSI Z358.1. So again, some of the survey results that we've done from the medical profession: 43% increased reduction of contaminants when using inverted flow. The most important features are ANSI compliance and comfort of the victim. And then we have gone out and determined that the flushing inside to out is preferred 4-to-1. And 86% of ophthalmologists said comfortable water pressure is very important. So again, this was an independent study of practicing ophthalmologists in April of 2014. So now let's get into HAWS Integrated. Again, HAWS Integrated is the systems side, if you will, of HAWS. You know, HAWS is the manufacturer of the safety showers and eye washes, gravity-fed, plumbed, you know, all those great things. HAWS Integrated is here to help you with your entire facility, from water inlet, pressures, flow rates, temperatures, duration, to ensure that you are fully compliant with the ANSI standard. Now here is an extreme example of some work that we have done. This was for the world's largest glycol manufacturing plant in Saudi Arabia. This unit provides both chilling and heating capabilities. It included pressure boosting systems, because we had 100 combination units on like a 2.5-mile continuous loop of pipe. So as it was designed, we ensured enough pressure, enough volume of both warm or cool water, depending on what time of the year it was, for 3 showers running simultaneously. So again, it's an extreme example. But again, just show some of the capabilities of how we help you ensure that just because you bought a shower that says it's ANSI compliant, it really isn't ANSI compliant until it's installed, because of water pressures, water temperatures, flow rates have an impact on the system that they're installed to. So this is where we help with that. We do offer standard models that are configurable. This is our Performance Series line. Again, so they are standard and customizable configurations. Standard means that they're pre-engineered. We don't have to go through long lead times of having engineers design these. These are kind of what we would call our catalog type units. Obviously reduce lead time with that we don't have to go through engineering. They are price and resource efficient, and again, they are all ANSI ISEA Z358.1 compliant. Some of the different models that we do offer, the 8710, this is a fully enclosed safety shower. It has a tempering package in the back side. So you go through those double swing saloon style doors, you're now in an 80 degree environment, getting an 85 degree shower, so you're out of the elements. All self-contained, and that all you have to do is put water and electricity to it. The 8720 is basically the same idea, but these are for areas where you don't have a sufficient supply of water or no water at all. Here we put the water above the shower head and it flows via gravity. Again, 15 minutes. We're ensuring you're getting that minimum of 20 GPM through that full 15-minute drench, and it does have the combination shower and eye face wash. The 8730 is just a shower booth. As it sits, it does not have tepid water. It typically receives tepid water from an 8710 or one of the 8780s we'll talk about here shortly. An 8760 is basically the 8710 above, but it's an indoor application, shower and tepid water supply. The 8780 would be our centralized tepid water system. These can be sized for one shower running or multiple showers running. They can be connected to centralized loops, booster pumps, recirc pumps, or just standalone as they are to supply tepid water to a closed shower. And then the 8785 is the same as the 8780, just designed in a booth for outdoor applications. And these have multiple tank options, standard NEMA 4, Class 1 Div 2, or options to pick a well, and we have all kinds of voltages to work within your facilities. So within Haas Integrated, we are dedicated to the project life cycle, which means we're here from the start. Hey, I've got this idea, I want to do tepid water, we're there for you. We're all the way through to installation, and then can help you post-install should your systems change. We want to get engaged as early as possible with you. We have proven time after time that the later we get involved, it costs more money because we take what somebody has designed for you and realize it's not going to work. You've wasted a lot of time, energy, and resources that we could have helped you early on. So the sooner you get us engaged, the quicker we'll be able to get this going, which we believe saves you money. We do, again, offer those performance series, the catalog type items. If they're going to work, great. If you have some unique requirements, we're able to modify those performance series or start from from scratch to develop exactly what you need. We have many, many years of a library of projects we can pull from to get going quickly to help you get up and running as fast as possible. And again, we're here for the entire system implementation. If that means proper voltages, proper alarming, proper communication, we're going to make sure that whatever we design is going to work flawlessly within your system from many aspects, including the communication. And then from the lifecycle services, we're here to ensure that you're going to get that continuous compliance in the years to come. So with that, we will go to poll question number 3.
Thanks, Casey. So after you learned about tepid water and Haas Integrated and the tempering solutions that can be offered, we'd like to know which of the following best describes your current situation. We do have a tempering solution of some sort. We don't have a tempering solution due to space limitations. We don't have a tempering solution due to budget constraints. We do not have a tempering solution due to constraints of laying pipe, or having a tempering solution does not apply to me or my facilities. Great, thanks all for answering. Back to you, Casey.
All right, so moving on, we do want to expose you to a partner of ours. This is our approved third-party service provider. This is called Zavado. They're an independent third-party service company that provides warranty-filled service for emergency shower and eye wash equipment. They do offer startup and commissioning. They do come out and do annual ANSI inspections. So again, part of the ANSI requirement is an annual inspection. They are able to come out Depending on how many showers will determine how many days they will be there, but they will do a full assessment of the equipment, all aspects, and then give you a great report afterwards that you are complying. And if you're not, they give you some great recommendations as to what to do to get your product fixed. They do offer, and this is something I highly recommend for your folks who are out testing the shower equipment, an online competent person training and certification. It's only $49.99. This is something available on their website, so go to www.zavado.com. It's been an eye-opener for the people or the folks who do test the safety showers, because they come back with a much better understanding as to what their requirements are. So it's been money well spent for the folks who have taken advantage of it. They will also come out and do a wireless alarm site survey and do the install. So Haas does have a wireless alarming technology. One aspect that is not part of ANSI standard is alarming. So you have potentially the best operating safety shower in the world, but if no one knows it's being used, I'm not sure how effective it is. So there are ways to do alarming from your existing showers back to a control room with wireless technology, and they can help with those site surveys and installations. And again, they do the repairs and upgrades. So if they come out and determine you don't have simultaneous flow, they could put new shower heads and new eye face wash heads to help with that, assuming you've got enough flow and pressure. Also, they do our warranty type service, and they are great for preventive maintenance and do take on contracts for you guys. So if this is something you are interested in, I recommend you go to, again, to zavado.com to see how they can help you out. So with that, we're going to get to the questions and answers. There's been an incredible amount of questions. I can guarantee we're not going to get through them all, but from what I understand from Samantha, there are some good questions. So with that, I will hand it over to Samantha.
Great, thanks, Casey. I'm actually going to go into a poll question before we get into the Q&A, and then post this poll question, which you'll see on your screen. We do have a couple frequently asked questions, and those are a lot of the questions that we saw come up from the audience. But first, we'd like to know if you'd be interested in a complimentary site survey of your existing emergency equipment for ANSI compliance. So we actually have a program where we have one of our reps within your area come out to your facility, and for a full day they'll inspect as many pieces of equipment as possible and then provide a summary report and then some recommendations on how you can meet compliance. So please check yes if you're interested in that, and we'll make sure to get you connected to your local rep. If not a problem. All right, I will close this poll and then we'll move to the FAQ.
Okay, sorry about that. So yes, we do have the standard questions that we always get, so those have become our frequently asked questions. So we always get asked, does OSHA use the ANSI standard? Now, OSHA, in the code, it just says you must supply a suitable facility for drenching. They do not specifically say eyewash. They do not say showers. They do not reference ANSI Z358. However, those first couple of slides where we're talking about the penalties, they were specifically calling out the type of equipment. So while the code does not reference the ANSI standard, we do know that OSHA inspectors will tell you to go to the ANSI standard to determine what a suitable facility is. So it's kind of it's a very specific question, kind of a vague answer. We do believe they use it, but they don't reference it in their code, if that makes sense. Then we always get asked what's required in the weekly test versus the annual test. So again, the weekly test is just to activate water to ensure water is available and to flush out the sediment that's in the dead legs. Where the annual test is where you're going through and you're checking pressures and flow rates and spray patterns and 15 minutes for tepid water. So a much different type of a test, but again, from that best practices slide, people do the weekly test a little differently than what the standard clearly states. With the new, or with the ANSI update, now the 2014, our existing eye face washes, showers, and drench hose stations also required to meet the new guidelines. Yes, there is no grandfather clause in the ANSI standard. So what a grandfather clause would say, if you have equipment prior to this installation or this revision, you are exempt from the data that's in this revision. That is not in there. What we want is, as we improve the standard, we want you to have or want you to go out and upgrade your equipment around the better standard. So if you have something from 1980 and it's a 30 GPM shower and today's 20, you're okay because it's a minimum flow rate. But from where the locations are and off to on in 1 second, whatever all those other changes, we want to make sure you're compliant. And again, does a door constitute an obstruction? The way the standard is reading, the door needs to open in the direction of the victims running to the shower. So if you saw in our enclosures, we had those double swing doors, so you basically run right through them and you can get out of them pretty easy. So you don't want a handle that you have to manipulate to open, and then you don't want to have to pull the door towards you to get through. So you just need to be able to run direct into it. So those are frequently asked, and from Samantha's telling me that we have an incredible amount of questions. I appreciate that. It's going to make me do some work afterwards, but that's okay. So she'll go through a handful of them and go from there.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that if we don't get to your question, either Casey or someone within Haas will reach out to you directly, or in a secondary follow-up email, which will come out next week, we will take all of these questions and have answers and send you guys the link to that document. So I want to touch on two different questions that are very similar here. They'd like to know, how do I know if a shower is required in my facility? And they also want to know how you decide what equipment is appropriate for what application.
Okay, that's probably one of the harder questions, but a great question. So the first thing that I always suggest, go to the SDS, or what used to be called the MSDS. There it's going to be very clear about what to do for eyes and what to do for the body. And it's from there it's going to be pretty clear if you're going to need an eye wash. But what you have to do is really evaluate the work that's being done in that area and what's the risk or the potential that the body is going to get hit with chemicals. I don't believe, again, that there is a question between an eye wash or an eye face wash. It should always be an eye face wash. The question always is, do I need a shower with it? And I can't answer that here, and I think you can understand why. I can't see where your workers are at. But if there is a chance that something beyond the face is going to get hit with a chemical, you're going to need a combination shower eye face wash. Where we see only eye face washes is typically in laboratory type installations where they're just working around a sink and they're just going from a beaker to a beaker, transferring stuff in a test mode. Not saying that you don't need a shower there, because we do see them and we do install them, but most of the time you're going to require both the combination shower and the eye face wash.
Thanks, Casey. Mark was wondering, who decides how far someone can go in 10 seconds?
That's really coming down to your health and safety group to evaluate the folks that are working in that area, what type of PPE they may have on. I mean, if they had being extreme here, a level A type suit, maybe more difficult to get to the shower if you just had Nomex on. So you really just have to assess the work area, the people that are in there, how they may be dressed again with that PPE to determine. It's a difficult aspect of the standard to determine where that shower is going to be. Now, ideally, we want it as close to the potential accident as possible. However, you don't want it necessarily right next to the potential accident, because if it's a pipe that burst, you want to get people away from that to get to the drenching gate facility. So I apologize, Mark. It's a very tough question. Just you really got to assess your local area to see what you need.
Crystal wanted to know, is there a height requirement for the signage?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't believe so. I don't have my standard right in front. I've never been asked that, Crystal. I don't believe that there is. It should be, in my opinion, at eye height. You know, from a standing person to ensure as they're walking that they can see it. But what I will do, I mean, this will be captured, and I will go back to the standard and evaluate it to get you the specific answer to your question.
All right, so we've had a couple people asking about personal emergency eye washes, also known as squeeze bottles. Are they ANSI compliant, and do they require to meet all the same regulations of the ANSI standard as primary or plumbed equipment does?
So those are considered supplemental pieces of equipment. So what we do is we put the bottled eye wash right next to the potential accident, or even on the body with, you know, through a belt loop, or, you know, something like that. They do not remove the requirement for the eye wash. You do not get 15 minutes out of a bottle eye wash. So it is really first response to get you to the plumbed eye wash for that full 15 minutes. So they're in the standard, but they're considered supplemental, but it's very, very clear that they do not replace the requirement for the full 15-minute eye wash or eye face wash. So I think that answers the question.
All right, David's wanting to know if we have retrofit kits to be able to have an Axion head on a competitor's product.
So we designed, within the website you can go and find a kit. They're called Axion Advantage Kits, AX14, AX14S, and we give you in that kit fittings that can be used to retrofit about 80% of the competitive product that's out there. So there are some devices out there that are not retrofittable. There are some old Haas stuff that's not retrofittable based on how we used to do the spray patterns. But in those kits, the AX14, AX14Ss, you get a lot of fittings that, again, will help you retrofit up to 80% of the equipment that's out there. The key to it is that the eye wash or eye face wash needs to come up through the center of the bowl, or just up through a straight pipe into the other heads. We used to call those the bull horns. If the spray heads are integral to a bowl on the far outside, those are typically not retrofittable, but we do offer loop assemblies to help you replace those as well.
All right, Casey, I think we have time for one last question, and then we'll move on to a slide with some contact information. The last question is, are the faucet-mounted eye washes still acceptable, and how do you maintain tepid water?
So they are allowed. They would fall under what I would call a plumbed eye wash. So you have to ensure that it's 0.4 gallons per minute. In regards to the tepid water, they're required to meet that as well, so the 60 to 100 degrees. The key to these faucet-mounted eye washes is to ensure that if the hot water is turned on, because in some goosenecks you have a 50-50 chance as to which side to turn on. If you were to pick the wrong side and it went hot, you want to make sure that there is equipment built into those sink faucet eye washes to stop the water and divert it down. But tepid water definitely is a requirement. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go and spend a lot of money to put a tepid water system in, because these are typically indoor applications. They're in a sink in a lab. At 0.4 gallons a minute, that's a small amount of water, and you probably have enough water in your pipelines that's in the ambient temperature around 72 degrees. So for the most part, you will comply with that ANSI standard. But if you don't, yes, you're going to have to look at something to increase that temperature. All right, so this will conclude the standard. Please feel free to reach out to any one of us to help you with that. Again, your questions are captured. We will get through those as fast as possible. For a territorial perspective as to who you should reach out to, I manage the west coast of the U.S., so basically Colorado West and Western Canada. Mike Galikowski covers the southern region, so Houston on through to Florida. Nicole Wisman handles the eastern side of the U.S. Up into eastern Canada. And then Christy Finazzi, she handles all of our inside sales. So if you don't know exactly who you should reach out to, please bounce those through Christy. Just let her know you were part of the webinar today and you have a question and you'd like somebody to answer what you got. So again, we are available for you. Please reach out, drop us an email, drop us a call, any specific questions or problems, or just want to bounce some ideas off us. That's what we're here for. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. This was a highly attended webinar for us. We really do appreciate you taking time out. Be safe out there, and we'll talk soon.